It was the moment I never wanted to have. All the whispers were finally true. In that moment, I thought I was unworthy, unfit. Look at you, you liar, you hypocrite. Who's going to love you now? Middle school kind of hormones had kicked in when discovering pornography was also one of those things where it was shameful because I was curious, but also I knew I wasn't supposed to be past those certain channels anyway. And I didn't know what to talk about, who to talk with, because the idolatry wanted to keep up a good image, but also we didn't talk about sex or anything. I just ended up kind of hiding that.
My name is Misty Duke, and Buddy and I have been married for 21 years. We met in college. For me, I would say, love at first glance, and, then it just kind of developed into a friendship after that.
By hours, she was a senior, I was a freshman, and so we cut up and say she married the younger kid, and you're young and in love, and she has always been a constant. First ministry job actually was an intern at my home church. Then I was a youth and children's pastor full-time. Then from there, went to a church in Monticello, Kentucky. Was student and youth and children's pastor for 9, and then they called me to be pastor for 2 years.
After we were married, the first year, I had found some images on the computer. I just remember being extremely hurt. I felt betrayed. I felt alone, didn't know who I could talk to, not feeling worthy, not feeling beautiful, and comparing myself to, the images that was being looked at.
It was one of those things where obviously myself, I don't want to do this again. I don't want, and she forgave me.
I do feel like he repented at that time, but it was a struggle that came up over and over again over the years.
Being in student ministry was one thing, but being a pastor, for lack of a better term, the pressure was more and more, and so the cracks were showing more and more. So I prayed and asked, God to open a door. And so he opened the door for me to move to Jessup to be the youth minister at First Baptist. There was an Instagram account from a previous church in Kentucky, and they asked me for the passcode. So I looked at it, and all of a sudden there was an inappropriate account that was tied to that one. And in that moment, I knew. I was finally caught. I wrote a letter of resignation that day. That letter said, I've never confessed publicly that I struggle with pornography, and I'm unfit for ministry. I humbly resign. My character did not match my calling.
That night, we got through the night, a lot of tears. I had to work the next day. By the time I was getting off work, Buddy made a decision.
The whispers increased so much more. And so all I could think about was letting my parents down, my wife, my kids, all the shame, all the guilt, all the stuff, all the things the enemy was speaking in my mind. In that moment, I was thinking about taking my life.
At that time, our pastor got there, and he ended up taking him to the hospital.
And I'm sitting in the waiting area, and a young lady comes up to me and she says, God's not done with you. And she just said Philippians 1:6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion on the day of Christ Jesus. And so I walked through that facility, went through it for a week. I started recovery. The church in Jessup did not force me to resign. But after talking with family, Misty, friends, I knew I needed to step away, but also I needed to heal. I'm learning to kill the sin. Number one is being aware and knowing that, hey, I'm going down the wrong path. But also, if you do sin, it's understanding that you confess it. Have a group of people in your life that you say, this is what I did, and now it's starting to lose its power over you because you started to talk about it.
God has definitely redeemed our marriage. We're more open and honest with each other. Right now, where we're at, I think, is just more, it's real, and there's a love that we've had to choose to love each other every day. I'm not going to say it was a facade, but just I feel like our marriage is becoming what God has designed it to be.
When I hear the words be free, I think about the fact that I can be free in my strengths and in my weaknesses to be a disciple, to be a son. Even if you don't think anybody else understands rejection or shame, it's Jesus, because he took that on the cross so that we could be free.